Well, we're having my good friend Aaron back this week. Did you enjoy the last episode?
Oh, yes, I did.
Anything in particular that struck you?
Oh, I love the trip to India.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, the wedding, his observations, it was...
Just for everybody to know, he did not take us on a trip to India.
Yeah, we're hoping he'll take us for a trip to India.
I would like to go to a trip anywhere.
Well, I'm excited for tonight because Aaron will be telling us about some of his travels around the world, and we'll explore one of his
and outside
hobbies.
the world.
And outside the world
Although
into
he
space.
didn't actually do those. He's just... he has a lot of knowledge on...
He has a lot of knowledge and enthusiasm on space travel. So, welcome back, Aaron.
Welcome to...
The third chair.
Yes. This episode of The Third Chair, which I don't know what the number is because I can't count that high.
Yeah,
We've been
we're
on
in
air
the
for a
50s.
while.
We're in the 50s, I think.
Now we're in the 60s.
Are we in the 60s?
This one will be in the 70s.
Yeah.
70s.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And I can only
Now, is that
count,
American 70 or Canadian 70?
I don't know. I can
There's an exchange rate.
I can only count to 42.
And Canadians can only count to 5.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have no teeth. I'm playing ice hockey.
And we always say that because Peter is a Canadian.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, at least
one of the
our
reasons
beer
I
tastes
love
good.
As the McKenzie brothers proved.
Yeah, that's right. They had Geddy Lee from Rush on them, on one of their albums, the Mackenzie Brothers.
Is that right?
Yeah, for those of you Canadian rock fans that like Rush.
And Aaron, we're going to talk because you're kind of a world traveler because I understand you traveled in 30 countries. So we're going to talk some about your worldwide travels. Although we talked a bit last week about India.
Mm-hmm.
You went to a wedding there. So you've been to 30 countries, not including India because we covered that last week. What are your 3 favorite countries you've been to?
Yeah, that's great. India would not make that list. No offense to them. It's close. But I definitely experienced Hoi An, Vietnam. It's the one in the middle of Vietnam. That city was absolutely amazing. The water, the nightlife, the lanterns, the shopping, the safety. I accidentally left the bicycle out in the middle of the night and there was no problem. It was sitting there in the morning when I walked back to it.
You probably wonder who littered that bicycle.
Yeah, well, yeah, probably there. It's a nice bike for the area, but
yeah, I heard that like in China that they tried the same program here, but we had a program. We tried it here where people the city would set up bikes and people could borrow them and ride them to certain places, but over here they were all stolen and everything.
I've heard those go fairly poorly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they all build up.
But in the Asian countries, it's kind of just a matter of life.
Yeah, people respecting other people and not stealing stuff is definitely a thing. And then people find out about who the thieves are, and so then they get excommunicated. It's kind of like the Wild West was here. I imagine you could get away with some crime for a while, but then it's going to catch up, and it's going to be on the wrong side of a gun. So it's definitely like that over there. Hoi An, Vietnam, I found very placid. No anger. Everyone loved America, even though we had just been dropping more bombs on Cambodia and Vietnam than like in the rest of history combined. And then in one generation, they started loving us. So Vietnam 1, Bali, Indonesia, definitive,
Bali.
probably number 1 location I've been to in existence on this planet. Bali, Indonesia. The people were saintly. There's 3 religions getting along: Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, and Christian. I kind of wrap Hindu and Buddhist together a little bit because it's tough to always tell what people who are practicing the Hindu beliefs, if they're Buddhist or not. But all of those religions were getting along extremely well. Even though like at the Muslim temple, they'd be like no bathing suits. Everyone's supposed to be fully covered and it's like right by a beach. And so then there's people wearing bikinis and stuff. And there's the tourists out there and everyone was getting along amazingly well. And then the peace of the people, the Indonesian people, is definitely encouraging. I was very taken aback by how serene, respectful, kind, giving, and loving everyone from Indonesia was. Didn't matter what the religion was.
How about the food?
Oh yeah, the food. Getting to eat chicken pad thai for like 53 cents. They had these like street making deals, and there's some of the prices were slightly more normal, but if you find the right hole in the wall and you smile at them just right, they give you like the local price. And the price of food there is so low. It's so cheap.
So these countries are close to China, right?
They are.
And did they worry about the Chinese?
Yeah, everyone has their stance on it. That's a good question. Everyone kind of hates the Chinese on different degrees. I mean, I learned this recently, and I didn't know enough about this, and it was embarrassing how little I knew. But like the Japanese hate the Chinese and the Indians don't get along. The Indians and the Pakistanis don't get along. And there's history, just like our American history, that there's reasons why this is the case for these people for a long time.
People really hate the Japanese, and that's one of the reasons they won't.
Especially from World War II.
Even before that.
But even before that.
Because they were conquering countries before World War II. World War II was like the partnership with Germany.
Chinese are definitely, they're not vehemently hated by any of the groups. The biggest questions I would get is about our American presidency. No matter when I travel, people want to ask about the American stuff, the American presidency. Whereas to your point and to your question, I think there should be a lot more focus on what is China doing. But because they keep such a wrap on the information, they're just kind of sneaking along. Like, I bet a lot of people didn't know the GDP is not the same, but the purchasing power of China in their GDP is actually higher than America now. So by one of the metrics of our economies, China has already passed up America. So when are we going to catch up to being like, wait a minute, we're not the almighty empire. We are America is trending down and China is trending up. And there's going to be a crossover here at some point in our very, very near future where China's killing it on every metric. But Hoi An, Vietnam, Bali, Indonesia, and then probably America, number 3.
Which part of America?
Yeah.
Where in America have you traveled that you really loved?
Been to 38 states, have not been to them all, have not been to Alaska. I love Hawaii. Hawaii would definitely make the list. The Midwest has its charm. The South has its charm. California has some very good things. There's also things to dislike in every part of it, but I like the diversity too. The broad diversity in America from top to bottom.
Yeah, it is interesting. You go, like, some traditions. I grew up in North Dakota. And some traditions, like, my dad, we called soda pop, and we called it pop.
Yeah.
And then my dad is down south, and he goes to the young lady, and my brother was going to Ole Miss at the time, and he called to said, "Where's your pop?" And she's like, "What, you want to meet my dad?"
Yes.
And my brother says, soda. Like,
yes.
You don't say pop down here, Dad.
Yes.
Oh.
In Georgia, it's a Coke.
That's what I was going to say.
No matter what it is, no matter what kind of Coke you want.
Yes.
South. Yeah,
yes, exactly. I'll have a Coke. Okay, what kind? And it's like,
yeah.
That's so true.
So did some of your trips, did you have a quest, a spiritual quest, or some other type of quest, a business quest or something like that?
Great question. Yeah, the trip to Turkey was starting a business, so it was purely an import company, and the play was taking advantage of labor disparities and the lack of the internet. So I was bringing small and medium-sized businesses into America via the internet. Then I expanded that on the Asia trip. The Asia trip also had 3, though, main goals. The main one of the Asia trip, which was 14 countries from New Zealand to Myanmar in 130 days. So I traveled from New Zealand to Myanmar, and I hit pretty much any major country in the middle of that. And
was there civil war going on in Myanmar when you were there?
There was. And
yeah, we had a guest on, Steve Coe, who does a lot, intimately doing work on the ground there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, there's been some pretty bad horror stories lately.
Yeah, just another standard run-of-the-mill racist genocide fueled by government dollars, just your standard abhorrent, terrible things that we all think is done from the world, but is still going on even in the present day. Mind-blowing and shocking, but, that was definitely going on. They were burning villages and everything. But yeah, the purpose of that was to just see the poverty of the world, see the true poverty of what's going on, so I can actually know what it is to be American and to know how blessed it is to be an American. And then I've also done dental tourism. Went down to Costa Rica and decided to let a Costa Rican dentist drill my teeth just to see what that experience was like.
So you just do this for the experience?
Yeah. Yeah, it was part of the thing. I was trying to figure out, like, well, people go to these places for these experiences. Why not do all the experiences? So I'll get some dental work done.
Well, medical tourism is a really big thing. You can go and get operations at a fifth of the price.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we're going to talk more about travel when we come back from our break. Welcome back to the third chair, and we are talking about the travels of Aaron so far in this episode.
Sounds like Gulliver's Travels. Could be like a classic.
Travels. Aaron's Travels.
Aaron's
I
Travels.
like the Travels of Aaron better.
The Travels of Aaron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very glamorized.
As long as he doesn't run into some very tiny people.
Yeah.
Oh, or very big people. Because Gulliver ran into both.
Right. That's right.
So, did you get any? Oh, okay. Oh, we were talking about the 130 days, 14 countries, and did you do this as part of a business, or did you do this?
The long stint was not part of the business as much. I'm always looking for a good deal on imports, but it was not directly to import things. It was kind of to see poverty across the world, visit my sister in the Sultanate of Brunei, and then do the meditation in Myanmar. So those were the three big checks.
Does your sister, she travel a lot, or she just?
She's got me beat. Two of my sisters have me beat on travel, but she's now a major in the Air Force, and she was deployed on a stint with the State Department in Brunei.
So she works for the State
She
Department.
worked, at
Oh,
that time.
they travel, don't they?
Big time. Yeah.
Do you keep trying? Do you know where she is all the time, or sometimes you get forget?
For a time there was definitely "Where's Brittany," but now she's in Ohio, and she's been there for quite a while.
Oh, okay.
So it's settled down.
Well, wait a minute. After all these, and then you say she's in Ohio.
Yeah, just
That's kind of
lame
its
Ohio.
own country too, though.
I was born in Ohio.
Yeah.
Good people in Ohio.
Yeah, Ohio's okay.
I was there long enough to be bored.
Yeah,
That's
I was
nice.
gonna say a little boring, but it's all there's. I see her going out and doing stuff, so it's kind of like it's not the grass is greener on the other side. It's the grass is green where you water it.
That's a good saying.
I spent 12 years in Toledo, and the best part of it was that it was so close to everywhere else, so that was cool.
Nice. A day trip in any direction has got action.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was it exactly.
Definitely.
It was a long day trip from Grand Forks, North Dakota. You go to Winnipeg or Minneapolis.
Dakota.
Hey, Winnipeg, though. There's a Canadian city. One of the two coldest cities in continental USA. And
What's
Canada.
the other one?
It's a city in, or at least what I've been told is there's a city in Montana that starts with an H. Hellbrook.
Helena or
Not Helena, no.
it's a different one.
Holenbrook, or but it's out on the plains. But in terms of continental
I tell
US
you,
and Canada.
Grand Forks, I would bet is in the top 10 somewhere.
Oh yeah, very cold.
Very cold.
Mm-hmm.
I'm recruiting for Girard, Ohio right now, near Batavia, Ohio.
I don't even know where Batavia is.
That one's more south, I think. But I've also got them mixed up geographically because they're not really close. One is close to Cincinnati.
I was just
But yeah, these small...
so on the
suburb-
western side of the state. I went to a ball game in Cincinnati.
Oh, how's
The
that?
Bengals.
No, baseball. The Reds.
The Reds, Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah, but
Was that the
Cincinnati,
time of Johnny Bench, or was that before your time?
I watched Johnny Bench when I was a kid, but he was not there when I saw Ken Griffey Jr. strike out that day.
Oh, wow. He wasn't playing for Seattle Mariners then, though, was he?
No, he's playing for Cincinnati.
Or Seattle, yeah, is it the Mariners? That's
He played for. I saw him play with the Mariners in the Kingdom too.
Oh wow, yeah.
So I watched a lot of baseball games.
That's great.
Yeah, was Pete Rose? Was he a Cincinnati Red as well?
Yeah, most of his career.
Most of his career.
Yeah, him and Bench and Joe Morgan, and that's when they were the Big Red Machine.
The Big Red Machine.
They had quite the lineup.
Mm.
And Rose and Bench and Morgan were the three biggest ones, but they had.
Was Bench the cleanup hitter? Was he fourth?
Yeah.
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 So that's all I know about baseball. That's it.
Johnny Bench batted fourth.
That's right. Who's number 4? I am. Yeah.
Well, he wasn't number 4. He was batted fourth.
Yeah. So,
He had a different number. So do you get education out of this, or what are you trying to experience when you say, I want to learn about the poor? What do you want to learn out of this?
Yeah. I like to get in the trenches and see how daily living is, and I love to see how it's so different. And just seeing how in India, as well as Asia, as well as all those Pacific, Southeast Asia areas versus New Zealand, Australia, how everybody does life. Just seeing how even the well-to-do in Australia hang their laundry outside to dry because they don't want to pay for like the dryer to be on in their own house, and they might even have a dryer in their own house, but they will still hang it out to dry, and it's so humid down there nothing ever dries, and if it's in the shade it's totally wet.
So this is just an idiosyncrasy?
Well, and seeing people, I think it's a Buddhist phrase, but a great leader knows all of his people inside and out from the bottom to the top. And so in order to be a good leader, we must practice getting on the same level as anyone that we want to lead. And I think humans are the most interesting study out there. Like, we can study material objects in physics, and I think science is amazing. Love science. But throw a human in the equation, and there are so many more variables that make the whole creativity just explode with action. Math, there's a right answer to the question. There might be multiple right answers, but you can repeat it. A human being cannot be repeated. This is one of the hardest things, is like anything involving a human doesn't know what we're going to get. It's going to be a different answer potentially based on the day. And so I love to see that.
There's about 8 billion stories in the world because there's about 8 billion.
Absolutely. And you raise another interesting point. Everyone on the planet, all 8 billion of those people, they know something I don't. So that is a great basis to respect them and be interested in them, because they know how to do something, they know something, they've experienced something, they've seen something that I haven't. And so
Right.
I love getting out there and seeing what they've experienced.
So when you did this 130-day tour, 10 countries, and you're expecting certain things in each country, I suppose you did some research. What surprised you the most when you got on the ground and said, I was not expecting that at all?
Good one. Yeah, I did research. I didn't always do a ton of research for each one, but the less developed countries, seeing how much the rules are there, but everyone is breaking the rules, I think was a big one. I remember in Myanmar watching these kids playing on the tracks, and they would like be so close to a train that would totally kill them, but because they'd grown up playing on these tracks, they knew where they can stand where it's not death and where it is death. And they're like, standing in places where the trains are going by on each side, and they're cool as a cucumber. And it's like, in America, this would not be allowed. This would be a ticket. Parents are going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
Major offense.
Yeah.
Why isn't there a gate there? There's ADA laws. We need to have all this stuff restricted. And the kids are they're just walking up and down the lines trying to sell stuff to the tourists. So that was a shock to see the differing rules. And then also the cultural differences just across the board. I think it was either New Zealand or Australia, is like no spitting. And there's all these signs like, don't spit, you'll be ticketed for spitting. So it's like, okay.
So did you spit when you went to Australia?
Not that I remember.
Oh, okay.
I didn't chew tobacco or anything. No.
I figure Peter would spit on purpose just
to see what happens.
No, I do have complaints about Australia. I was thoroughly unimpressed with a lot of the food I ate. I thought it was very bland and kind of British bland.
Yeah, because
British, I just don't know if I hit
British.
wrong.
You had to find the right restaurant.
Yeah.
To get some spice or something in it. I mean, did you find? One of the things I like to travel is try different foods. Did you do that when you did?
Yeah, definitely ate some pretty weird stuff. Having a whole frog in Cambodia was interesting. Some of the stuff I ate in Laos was interesting.
Did you eat some insects?
Tried some insects, didn't like chow down on them. No. But I saw a bowl of them and I try to try everything.
Wow. I was going to make some insect jokes. I'm not going to.
We're going to talk more about travel when we get back after this.
Hi, it's Peter from the set of The Third Chair. I just want to put in a good word for my good friend and owner of 9 Round Kickboxing in Colorado Springs, Melissa Lance. Her studios provide a phenomenal workout in 30 minutes. I know I've benefited from it over the last 2 years. I've lost over 30 pounds and really appreciate the encouragement, the excitement, the expertise of the trainers. It's a great workout. I encourage you to check it out. That's 9 Round Kickboxing in Colorado Springs.
Welcome to the third chair, and Peter has been sitting there the whole episode saying, I want to ask more questions. And he might this segment.
I'm living on a prayer. To quote Bon Jovi.
You traveled some interesting reasons for traveling and some interesting places. Have you ever been in danger or got injured while you've been traveling overseas? Or even in the United States?
I know the answer to this
question. Yes, the answer is yes to both. Short story first, I was in Belize. I had won a poker tournament at the end of the runway. And it was a fair amount of money that I won this poker tournament in. I bought everyone in the bar a shot of Jägermeister. And as I was leaving, because I wanted everyone, they were not happy about me winning this poker tournament because they were all locals. And as I left, I started being followed by, everyone has golf carts, they don't have cars, everyone drives golf carts around. And so then these 2 golf carts with 4 dudes in it were following me down the road. So what I did, genius thinking, is I just broke into a dead sprint and just outran the golf cart's top speed.
So it worked?
It totally worked, because they're they have 2 guys in the golf cart and they have the pedal to the metal, and I'm just sprinting down the road. And it was I was leaving them in the dust.
You're faster than a golf cart.
Yes, I was fast.
Well, fully loaded golf cart.
Yes, and a Belizean golf cart too. So this is not.
Well, you know what? U.S. golf carts are that fast. At least on the golf course, I don't know if they're super them up or.
But
that could be a sport, souped up golf cart racing.
Yeah, that could definitely be a sport. I've seen some videos of that.
But were you injured, or is that just
that
a run for your life?
That was a dangerous situation that could have went much poorly. However, the big event was I was at this event in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and I slipped and fell off a waterfall. So
how high were you?
It was quite an experience. It was about 35 to 40 feet of vertical distance I covered, but it was like the waterfalls were those waterfalls that kind of like babbling like different objects, and there were some trees in this as well.
Okay.
And it was like calcium deposits. So they were called slippery rocks. Should have known. There were ropes for people to use to climb up, and there was a girl there, and there were 3 guys, and we were all kind of trying to impress this girl.
It's always about a girl.
So we all did this. It is, isn't it? Probably more wars have been fought over that. I'm thinking of Troy.
Hello, Troy.
Yeah.
But we decided, okay, we're going to try to get to the top, whoever gets to the top, without using their hands at all.
Gets the girl?
Guess first.
You should put that in.
Did she know about this? Yeah.
Get to talk to her first.
Yeah.
So I get up to the top, and I remember turning around, raising my hand, pumping, air pump of joy, and at that moment, my foot slipped out from under me. So then I dug my hand into what I thought would be something I could hold on to. It slips out. I then turn around, and I'm now sliding, sanding my fingernails off. They were completely destroyed. All these fingernails. And somehow I rotated. There's a lot of tumbling. There was a lot of different things that happened. And I remember grabbing a tree and hugging the tree
so you're a tree
to
hugger.
stop me. Yeah, that's what I am a devout tree hugger now, because there was like a cliff that
It saved your life, huh?
really rough to hit
Or-
whatever rocks were at the bottom of that.
So did you get a date that night?
No, it's funny how that ended up too, because I was like, yeah, she can take care of me. It's like, no, we're going to go back to the hotel. I'll take care of you. It's one of the guys.
No.
He was great too, though. I am very grateful.
Did you have any broken bones or anything?
I think I took some x-rays of my knee. My chest got hit. My fingers were bleeding profusely. My elbow was bleeding. I don't think I broke anything. There was a toe that hurt really bad. It might have been broke. I didn't ever get it x-rayed. But yeah, the other
any head injury?
Probably, as noted by my answers here today. But no, I got out of there. The thing that was so bizarre was all the first aid, a couple x-rays. I did the knee. I did something in my shoulder. And the prescription painkillers was like $9 out the door. And
Wow.
it was like,
Well, that's only 1/1000th of what you would have paid here.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it would have been 100 times that to just see someone who's like, I am licensed to take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Peter's going to ask you about a subject I'm interested in. So
Yeah.
I want to hear some of your answers on this.
Well, Aaron, I know from Toastmasters, has an interest in issues of space and biospheres and traveling to Mars and what Elon Musk is doing and that sort of thing. So, where, from your research in that, where are we in the journey towards Mars, and what are some of the challenges with that?
Boy, big question, a great question. We are further than we've ever been before. Even though we haven't been back to the moon in a generation, we have more hardware that is capable of doing this. There's a few major issues. Radiation, I would not even put in that, and that's the issue that people are going to be exposed to radiation, going, Van Allen belts on the surface of Mars. That is actually one of the less... I mean, there's a lot of
problem,
big ones.
but it's not the biggie.
Yes, it might make the top 5, but probably almost barely. The up mass to orbit is probably the biggest problem. This is the fact that we live in a very large gravity well, and we have a kind of, I would call it an atmosphere well. And so the amount of energy it takes to get material into a stable orbit around Earth is substantial. And so there's been a lot of outside-the-box thinking. Do we go get resources from the moon? Do we mine an asteroid? What do we do? How do we do it? And the reusable rocket, whether you call it a Falcon 9, which is a mildly reusable, they reuse the first stage and they catch the fairing. So this is a very reusable rocket. It's about 80% reusable. That's a huge breakthrough. Huge breakthrough. Like every time you watch any other launch provider other than SpaceX, they are throwing away the state-of-the-art rocket science into the ocean after every launch. That's a major problem.
SpaceX, is that
SpaceX,
Musk's company?
And that's, yes, yeah. Musk reuses it. He lands the first stage right now, which is the big lifting body. They have a fully reusable rocket currently in development, the Starship. And there's a very heavy booster that's also going to be putting an enormous amount of mass, anywhere from 100 to 150 tons.
So when you say reusable, would another word that would be possibly acceptable, refillable or refuelable?
Yeah, and they're looking for rapid reusability. So they're actually looking for like, how will this launch again in a day or two? Not like Space Shuttle, which was a reusable system, but the amount of man hours and cost that went into inspecting all those tiles and certifying everything and getting it flight ready was substantial. So getting material to orbit is a huge issue, and we've never been further down the road than we are now. The distance is a huge issue, just having the amount of time people are exposed to the elements and risk, similar to the Voyagers crossing the Atlantic Ocean or the Pacific Ocean. Just time in the chair is a lot. We know the round trip time could be as low as a year, maybe, but realistically, it's probably 2 or 3 years.
Would it almost be perfect timing to get as low as a year because the two orbits are different?
Yes, what is that? I forget the exact phrase for that 2-year confluence of orbits, but yeah, that.
So it works every 2 years a time? So
they're closer together.
Yes.
The planets are.
Holman transfer. This guy Holman made up the right orbital mechanics to do it, and it takes a lot less energy to do it every 2 years. So, yeah.
How about dealing with your body being at 0G for
that's in
2
the top
years.
5. Yeah, Doug, that's a great point. That's in the top 5 by a long shot. Our body does not. It doesn't keep stuff it doesn't need. So it just starts eating away the bones and the muscles because it's going, hey, I'm in 0G. I don't even have to work out. I don't have to do any of this stuff. And the body's like, hey, if it's not being used, cut it. And so everything starts to break down. And then some stuff we found, and thanks to the NASA crew and thanks to the ISS crew, our eyes being at 0G, our eyes change substantially. So they have a bunch of different glasses that people will change their prescription on orbit when they've been up there a while, because based on 0G, the focus of our eyes change. So we got to solve for all those variables, and you're absolutely right. That is a huge one, being in 0G. Now, the solution there, though, is just spin the ship. So you can start to create a ship where you'd get a good amount of it. And I think it's 0.6 Gs is enough to keep everything going. So you don't even have to spin it at 1 G. You can spin it at 0.6.
So does that mean like the guys have to be doing push-ups?
Peter's going to ask the exercise regime when you're doing 0.6 G in space, so that keep your muscles and your.
Can you be punching and kicking a heavy bag at 0 G?
I bet. Who knows?
Real people, real stories, real life. We're looking for guests. We're looking for you here on the third chair. I'm Peter, that's Doug, and how many different ways can we have guests?
Oh, at least 3. We could have them here in the studio in Colorado Springs. We've had guests all the way from LA on a Zoom, and we have gone on location, and we got our 3rd one already in the planning phase.
Awesome. Send us an email and we'll get you on the show. Welcome back to the third chair. Doug is with us, Peter's here, and Aaron's here. Talking about we're all here. 3 chairs, the gang is all here. So let's roll out the barrel. No. That's kind of a World War II drinking song, or World War I even, I don't know. Maybe even earlier. But we were talking about space, and I know related to it, Aaron, is something we've talked about as well. the whole idea of people living in a biosphere, sort of a self-contained, different. Biosphere 2 occurred in Arizona a few years back, where 8 people lived in there for 2 years. And there was like an ocean area, there was a desert area, there was like a rainforest, there were several different areas. And they were trying to do the experiment, can we live in a self-contained thing? And there's some amazing results. One of them, there's sort of a whole area of psychology that's developed called isolation psychology. It's, when you live just with 8 people, you might have trouble getting along.
Were any of them married, or are they all single, or?
I don't know, but I don't know that there were any married couples that were in there. I don't know if
there were
like
married couples.
There was like 5 Americans, 2 Brits, and 1 Belgium person. And then each person had a different area they were responsible to. But they found out some things they never dreamed would happen, like the kind of concrete they had. It reacted with some kind of calcium carbonate-like substance, and it started using up their oxygen. And so they couldn't get enough oxygen from the plants and whatnot. And the carbon dioxide levels rose too quickly because it affected photosynthesis. And so, have you been looking at that kind of stuff at all?
Yeah,
because you think would you drop that on Mars to try and make a city work there?
Yeah, if you're asking me what the solution is, it's going to be more redundancy, having backups, and then knowing what you're going into at first. Biosphere 2, they did not solve, and it took them many months to solve for where is the oxygen going.
Yeah, it was a total surprise.
It's leaching into the concrete. And then that panic spooked the crew, and they were getting more worried and more concerned, and they were diehard people who were not going to leave this facility. And then there were social issues that blossomed up. And to your point, there's an enormous amount of study that's going into this. Mm-hmm. But I want to spin everything to the positive in saying that I imagine there were some serious issues on the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria when they were coming over.
They almost had a mutiny.
I'm sure there was.
The legend goes that it was the next day, and of course,
we're going to
ride tomorrow. Right at the. I don't know if that much, but I think historians agree that there was almost a mutiny with Columbus.
I was thinking about in the context of our discussion about Mars, you get people there, like, what? How do you house them? Yeah, and what would you try to set that up? I thought sort of a biosphere kind of idea might be one approach. Yeah, but they also had problems with algae growing that they didn't expect that affected things, and and they only could grow enough to eat. I know this is going to sound terrible, only 1,800 calories a day, and they only got a quarter of a pound of beef like once a week or something like that. Wow. Yeah, and the rest was plant-based.
So you wouldn't have survived, Peter.
I wouldn't. So I'd be banging on the door, let me out.
You would have been the next morning like, wait a minute, I have to wait 6 more days for my quarter of a pound.
Steak. Yeah.
I'm going to Biodome Wendy's.
Yeah, just put it on a tray and put it under the door. When the oxygen levels dropped, they panicked and they reached a point where they had to pump in oxygen for a while.
Oh, they did supplement. They broke their cardinal rule to save the people. I guess
that's
great.
Thing,
I guess they wanted them to live.
Yeah. First of all, whenever you do a frontier thing that no human has ever done before, similar to like going to the moon on Apollo missions, we have to expect that for the sake of humanity, there are tremendous risks, and that people could be ultimately giving their life in the act of science and exploration, which that's not going to change our human drive to explore because it seems like it's everywhere. But then also a combination of things. Using the regolith to mound over whatever structure you have is a significant thing. We currently have a module on the ISS that's an inflatable device that does hold up to the radiation in the outer areas of the orbit of the ISS. So it's not full radiation. You still get some of the perks from the magnetic field, but it's definitely proven to take care of humans in a sealed substance. So you get a few of those in combination with each other. You always have the eject button on your starship that has landed. That's the other big thing, is by refueling the starships in orbit of Earth, you leave with a full tank. Mm-hmm. And you'll already have starships that are landed there that are unmanned starships, that as long as you nail your landing on Mars correctly, you might have multiple eject buttons. So those are tremendous backups to people who might be having an emergency. But then I'm always reminded of, like, human beings are willing to die for a lot less than going to Mars and exploring. So let the group of people who want to be that explorer cut new swaths in the arts, science, technology, creativity. There's a planned moon mission. It's orbiting the moon, where they're going to bring up just artists, musicians, painters, and stuff like that to just do. They're circling the moon.
we need to re-enter. Which button do we press? I don't know, man.
I don't know.
You know, I don't know, man. But smoke this doobie, you know.
When you said that, so people are willing to die for a lot less, I thought of the Darwin Awards, because some of them they tried like some roller skating or skateboard trick that no one has ever done before. It's really dumb. Like, they're gonna fly across the Grand Canyon with just a little bump, and like
totally.
So yeah, I mean, those guys are exploring the limits, but they're showing we're far from skateboarding across the Grand Canyon yet.
The daredevils, and I'm also, when I was saying that, I was also referring to, like, people who are willing to fight and die because there's this line on the map that says, that's yours, that's mine, you don't come into my land, so I'm going to die, and I'm going to try to kill as many people as I can. These concepts have been around for all of time, but let's, cut the science and technology people a break and let them go out and do their thing.
Yeah, it is going to be risky, but you said when Columbus sailed across the ocean, and I mean other explorers.
Totally.
Sure, Magellan was given credit to be the first one to sail across the world, and he didn't even make it. He was killed in the Philippines.
There you go.
So, yeah, that's true. And what I think about, it's like the original Planet of the Apes, where Charles Heston comes back and like.
That was fiction, Peter. That wasn't.
Yeah, I know. But that's you think about
it's the future.
Going a long ways into space, and something like that happening. You're supposed to be home 3 years later, and like it's 100 years later, or 1,000 years later, and everyone's dead that and because who knows.
The best movie that does that is Idiocracy. I am so amazed by this B-roll mid-grade comedy. But it is so.
So where's that film?
It's a military experiment that goes wrong. They forget about the people in the pods, and then they come out 500 years later, and they're the smartest people on the planet. They were just picked to be average, but because people
went downhill.
Yeah, and the people who wanted to have sex were the dumber people, and the wealthier people waited to have kids. The whole society just got dumber and dumber on a whole. And so these average humans are like by far and away the smartest people on the planet. It's a very well done.
Where do you find this show?
Where do you find this?
Oh, I think it's on Netflix.
Yeah, Idiocracy.
Idiocracy. I would say it's one of the. It's a funny movie that I've now taken a lot of psychological lessons from.
That's good.
So that's just a movie.
Yeah, just a stand.
You see, you learn something new every night on our podcast. Oh, pardon me.
Web series.
So I guess we'll be back with a few final questions.
Unless we space out.
Unless we space out.
Oh, I took that. I read a couple pages before I gave the book.
You did Peter's job.
I know.
I guess
read a
that would
couple
make me
pages
a space
of the bad
cadet.
book before I gave the book, so I apologize for that, Peter.
Hi, I'm Peter from Pikes Peak Recovery Coaching, and as you know, I do help people with drug and alcohol recovery issues. I love to help people get better, But I also offer a variety of other services, including regular life coaching services. I've helped several people write and finish a book. I've helped a doctor that was in medical school graduate and then get into a residency. And I also actually have quite a background in mathematics, and I do some math tutoring for the GED as well as the ASVAB for those that are thinking about a career in the military. So my contact information is on the screen. Please send me an email or a text, and we can talk about some of these services and how I can help. That's Peter Grigg at Pikes Peak Recovery Coaching. Welcome back to the third chair. I'm Peter, that's Doug, and we're here with Aaron. 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Unbelievable that you'd stay with us this long.
Yeah, he hung out in my basement all
Yeah,
day.
that's
It was
great.
strange.
Did you let him come up and at least have some food, or you shared it with the cat?
I let him eat with the dog that we're dog sitting for.
Oh,
Very grateful.
I had a question I've been waiting to ask Aaron. You did your bachelor's degree in finance and financial planning, and you've spent some time working as a financial planning. And I know I've had the misfortune of working with some bad ones. And so I'd wonder if you'd take a moment just to share either some ideas on how to find a good one, or what in your mind would constitute a good financial planner, and maybe some things to watch out for.
That's a great question. And I'm sorry that you had a bad experience with a financial planner. There's supposed to be a lot of systems in place to prevent that. But some of the biggest manipulative people who have the greatest brains, as we know, Bernie Madoff, they have taken advantage of their intellect, and they've taken advantage of people. And I've heard many horror stories. And that's almost how every appointment in some capacity started with me, is hearing some area where people got kind of rooked over. Number one, asking for full disclosure. This is your money. I always find it, people will become friends with their financial advisor and they'll be scared to make changes to their account with their own money. That is not the relationship we're supposed to have here. This is a business transaction, and you are paying fees often far greater than you actually know. So knowing what your fees are, asking what your fees are, showing and asking for the documentation that show what fees am I going to pay, that helps center the conversation, because that's the last thing the financial advisor wants to talk about. And they want to say, well, I gave them the disclosure the first time we met, and I'll never ask them again. And every time they fill up their Roth with new money, we'll just talk about what we're going to invest in it. But what they don't tell you is the 5.75% or whatever is an A-share fund, and it's on the front end, and they're going to get the fee. So awareness of what is going on is a big one. Number two, spread your money out. Play them off each other. It's free to go see a financial advisor, and they're begging for your money. And that's actually the majority of what financial advisors do the whole time, is selling themselves, selling their business, and selling you on the next greatest idea, or selling you on the referrals. So use that to your advantage, and know it's just like anything in the world. They're going to put up a really good show to try to get you in the door of the front time, so you can play multiple ones off each other, and you can see what works for you and what doesn't. Then also educate yourself. Educating yourself is the worst thing. So many people don't want to make the decisions themselves, but actually doing some research, dipping your tiny little toe in is very revealing, and it will show a lot about what is actually going on. I would like to also share this one concept about the gap. Every profession has a little bit of this, but I think in the financial advancing world, it's the biggest. This is the distance between what you think you're paying for and what is actually happening. People think they're financial advisors out there making decisions, pulling levers, buy, sell, we need to make this, we need to protect the clients, this and that. They're doing none of that. They've just been told from a wholesaler what they should market, and now they're coming up with a tiny, tiny little proprietary thing that kind of tinily makes them special in a tiny, tiny way. They're selling the crap out of it, and then they're packaging it in this glitzy, glamoury, this report is printed and bound and all this different stuff, and it's all just stock boilerplate material. So press them, ask tough questions, and you can get to the bottom of it. And then also you can do fee only. Fee only is like hiring a lawyer. So you pay them an hourly wage to build your portfolio, and then when it's done, it's done. And you're not paying them those ongoing fees, because that'll sink a portfolio. 1% a year is highway robbery. Because in 20 years, all I have to do is remain your friend, and 20% of all your money moves to my account. And all I did was be your friend. You did the work for the money, and in 1% a year for 20 years, I get a fifth of all your money. And all I was your buddy. That's the real robbery of financial
Wow.
planning.
Well, thanks for sharing that. It makes me want to be a financial planner. No.
You can get rich quick if you do that.
Yeah, no, I just thank you for sharing that. If people want to contact you, what's the best way to do that? If you're giving out any contact information.
Yeah, just send me an email. I would love to hear feedback on this, how I can be better, how I can be a better communicator. Aaron, Aaron, the number 1 .schick, that's spelled SCHICK @gmail.com.
And Doug has one final question.
Sounds good.
Okay, you said during the break that Seinfeld is your favorite TV series. Did you see the one that was backwards where they go to an a wedding in India?
I have seen every episode, and the backwards, is it the backwards episode?
Yeah, and they go to India.
Yes.
Yes, I mean that was a classic. But so you compare that.
Yes.
Did you reckon when you went? Did you see that before you went to India?
I did. Yeah,
And
that's
did
where it
you
starts at the
compare?
end. It goes like 3 hours prior, 3 days
Yeah.
earlier, 3 days earlier. It's a great episode.
Oh yeah.
So it sounds
So did you compare that to the Seinfeld episode when you went to the wedding in India?
I didn't directly, but there was a lot of that stuff that's in that episode that I definitely saw. And I saw it live while being there. Seinfeld did so good, though. That was such a great show.
good
Oh, yeah.
answer. I'm going to go look up that episode. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week from the third chair.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Third chair.